The day the millionaire went looking for his maid was the day his perfectly ordered world began to unravel, though he did not know it yet as he stood in his glass-walled office overlooking a city that bowed to his name, his fingers drumming impatiently on polished mahogany while his assistant explained, for the third time, that Maria had not shown up for work, had not answered her phone, and had left no message, and to Adrian Blackwood, a man who owned companies, newspapers, and entire blocks of real estate. This absence felt strangely personal, uncomfortably loud, because Maria was not like the others, not like the staff who came and went silently through his mansion, because she was the one who noticed when he skipped meals, who left soup outside his study when he worked late, who spoke softly but looked him in the eyes, and when a week passed without her, unease crept into his chest like a slow leak he could not patch with money. So against the advice of everyone around him, Adrian took the address from her employment file and drove himself, leaving behind security and comfort, the city giving way to fields and broken roads until his luxury car seemed like an intruder in a land forgotten by progress, and when he finally stopped in front of a weather-beaten wooden shack near old grain silos, surrounded by plastic water containers and rusted buckets, something inside him tightened, because this was not how he imagined the life of the woman who quietly held his household together. And when Maria stepped out of the darkness of the doorway, dressed in the same simple blue uniform she wore at his house, but faded and worn here, flanked by two small children clinging to her sides, Adrian felt a shock he could not explain, his first words tumbling out wrong and sharp, asking if she lived here, and the look on her face, pride colliding with shame, was the first crack in the mirror of his certainty, and she nodded, saying nothing, while the boy stared at Adrian with wide, haunted eyes, and the little girl held Maria's hand as if afraid the world might snatch her away, and Adrian, unused to silence that did not bend to him, followed Maria inside the shack, where the air smelled of damp wood and boiled vegetables, and as his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he noticed a framed photograph on the wall, old and creased, showing a younger Maria standing beside a man who looked painfully familiar, a man Adrian had buried in memory years ago, his own brother, Thomas. Smiling in a way Adrian had never allowed himself to remember, and when he asked, his voice barely steady, Maria's answer fell like a verdict, explaining that Thomas had loved her quietly, secretly, that he had chosen a life away from wealth, away from the Blackwood name, and when he died suddenly years ago in an accident no newspaper deemed worthy of space, she was left with his children and a promise to raise them far from the shadow of a family that never wanted him, and as Maria spoke, the room seemed to tilt, memories flooding back, arguments, doors slammed, Adrian's cold dismissal of a brother who refused to become what money demanded, and the truth he was never meant to see rose up mercilessly. The boy standing in front of him was Thomas's son, his nephew, carrying the same eyes, the same fragile hope Adrian had once crushed, and in that moment the millionaire who thought he had everything understood that his empire was built on omissions, on silence, on walking away, and Maria's voice did not tremble as she explained she never came to his house for pity, that she worked because dignity mattered, because she wanted her children to grow without begging, and the realization that she had scrubbed his floors, folded his clothes, and watched him from a distance while carrying this truth broke something raw inside Adrian, because he saw himself then not as a powerful man but as a small one, someone who had mistaken control for strength, and when he offered money, as instinct demanded. Maria shook her head, saying softly that what she needed was not charity but acknowledgement, and the children watched silently as two worlds collided in that fragile space, and Adrian, for the first time in decades, knelt down, meeting the boy's gaze, apologizing not with words but with tears that surprised even him, because they carried years of regret, and when he left that shack, he did not drive back to the city immediately but sat in his car as the sun dipped low, realizing that wealth had never prepared him for truth, and in the days that followed, Adrian changed, not in grand announcements but in choices. Moving Maria and the children into a modest home of their choosing, ensuring education without headlines, standing at Thomas's neglected grave and speaking the words he never had, and though the world still called him a billionaire, those who saw him closely noticed something different, a humility money could not buy, because the truth he was never meant to see became the one that finally set him free. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that behind every door there may be a truth waiting to change a life, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Because these are the stories that matter, the stories that remind us that humanity is richer than wealth, and the next one might change the way you see the world forever.